Welcome to Two Woke Bonnets, a podcast where we revisit the classic TV shows of our Gen X childhoods and see how well they hold up today. With your hosts, Carol and Joey.
Hello and welcome back to the Prairie. This is
Hey,
Carol.
we're on the prairie. You can tell because we're wearing our hats. It's
That's right.
Joey.
We got our bonnets on. It's time to talk Little House. I don't know why I
Yay!
got suddenly Southern. They're from Minnesota.
I know. I'm like, that's not even close, but
That's not a
don't you know?
Minnesota.
Don't you
Uh,
know?
don't you know? Okay, so we're on uh
Episode 21 from
21,
season
Money
one.
Crop.
Now, listen, folks, if you are watching it on Peacock like we are, it will tell you it's episode 22. That's a lie because they counted the pilot, which was a movie, as episode 1, and it was really
Right.
episode 0. And I'm not saying they're bad people. They probably just don't have the technology to have something be episode 0. So
Plus, they're putting it all on streaming, so they're trying to get it as condensed as possible. So I'm going to try not to move my desk as much as
it
I'm going to remove
happens.
my hand so I'm not moving my
So tell
computer.
us who you are, because I said I was Joey.
Oh, I'm Carol. And we are Two Woke Bonnets, where we're watching Little House on the Prairie episodes and we're discussing them from a 2024 standpoint, but we're also old enough to discuss them from a 1970 standpoint. So there's that.
Yes. I was born in 1970. Did you know that?
Oh, so you are a 70s. I was born a little bit
I am
before.
like absolutely a 70s person. So
I love the 70s. It was an ugly decade. The colors were ugly, the clothes were ugly, but damn, the music was great.
I think being born in the 70s is part of the reason why I love orange so much.
I think so, yeah. Orange and avocado green.
Avocado green.
Avocado
Although I
green
will
was like
say
my favorite.
we were a Volkswagen family, which is kind of like the Conestoga wagons
Yeah,
because
we were
they were about
Fords.
as dependable. But we had a green Volkswagen wagon and then a blue VW Bug, dark blue, not the light blue. So
My dad had a blue Ford truck and he built a little kind of house type thing on the back of it because we would take trips to New Jersey every summer and we would camp at AO or
KOA,
yeah,
KOA.
AO yeah, KOAs. And we would sleep, some of us would sleep inside the truck and then some of us would sleep outside because there were 8 of us. So yeah, we were a huge
8 of
family.
us will fill our hearts
That
with
was regularly on
love.
our television simply for the title, but we're not discussing that show.
Oh, what show
Um,
are we discussing? It's
we're
been so
discussing Little
long.
House on the Prairie,
Oh,
hence
that's
the
right. That's
Bonnets.
right. Oh,
So
that's right. I just wear the house this bonnet around the house. What are you talking about? So we're talking about episode 21 of season 1. It was called Money Crop. And
yeah,
it starts out with us seeing them do a outdoor picnic at the Ingalls house.
yeah.
So with the smallest buffet table you've ever seen, and then this huge table for everybody else. And all they are moving around is little pieces of bread. It was cracking me up. So,
And loaves of bread that weigh absolutely nothing. I was like, that's not a real loaf of bread she's carrying right there.
the thing is now that we're watching this to talk about it on the podcast, you pay attention to things differently than if you
Yeah,
were just watching it to
just
binge it or whatever.
arbitrarily watching
And
it. I
so it
noticed
would be really
props.
funny because you would see these props, like one person would put it down, the other person would like act like, oh, that smells so good. Then another person picks it up and puts it on another part of the table. It's like, just leave the bread alone. Get your cotton picking hands off of it all over the place. So anyway.
This table is tiny. It's so tiny. But the men are over at the bigger table because they're discussing corn.
Which is carefully wrapped in a blanket. And
Yeah,
they're like, are you okay? Show everybody. And then they reveal a bunch of dried up corn.
yeah.
But,
And it's apparently like a new breed of corn or a new strain of corn.
right,
I think it's technically our yellow corn because to this point, they say that they've been growing quote unquote Indian corn, which is the multicolored corn, which is more which was the standard crop. I mean, corn grew multicolored until we told it not to, basically.
That's how we are. Yeah,
Yeah.
so the basic concept is wheat is not a big selling crop because it grows the best out there. And so therefore the demand is not as high. So now we're going to do corn,
Yeah.
and
And can
corn
I just
flour
say,
will be the thing. Now,
but
correct
didn't
me
we
if
just
I'm
have an
wrong.
episode where corn flour
I
was
was
like
just going to
killing?
say, maybe that's why, because the corn was bad before. So now if we can grow good corn, the whole town won't die.
And can
It
I
could
say, none
be.
of these farmers are under the age of 50. If they haven't figured out farming at this point, what are they doing?
Well, also, can we talk about the lifespan of people in that time frame? I'm like, how are these people still alive for starters? But okay.
You guys are
Okay.
all old. Charles is the youngest. I did not see any, well, besides Coulter. Okay, so we're introduced to Mr. and
Yeah.
Mrs. Coulter.
Who are new in town?
Yes.
They are new in
And
town,
yeah, and he
but
studies,
supposedly everybody knows them. So,
yeah, and they're really invested in Mrs. Coulter's pregnancy. So he is a university educated farmer. They use the term, and I didn't write it
ergonomist,
down. So yeah,
ergonomist.
yeah. But he studies crops and he's introducing them to this new strain of corn because he wants them to uh, buy seed and he wants to help them. That's his only goal here. He has no ulterior motive. He's just a good guy that knows stuff about corn and wants to preach the corn gospel.
Right. And prove to his father-in-law that he was
That he's a good
worthwhile.
man.
Yeah. So his
So
thing is that he studied corn, he figured out how to make it grow the best that it can. And now because Pa Ingalls has said we should trust him, all these old timers and
they do.
there's one middle timer, the one that keeps sticking up for him. They're Kennedy.
Well,
They're all
yeah, he showed up previously, right?
right. This is his
Yeah.
fourth and I think final episode. But
Okay.
Ken, so much for standing up for Charles. That did him well. But anyway,
Yeah.
so they all agree that they're
They
going to
all agreed
invest
they're
their
going to
corn.
send Coulter to Mankato. Is it Mankato? No, Minneapolis.
No,
He's going to
Minneapolis.
Minneapolis. Yeah, he's
Yeah,
going to
it's going to
Minneapolis.
be
So this is a long trip.
2 week trip.
Yeah, to buy the corn, the seed, and then bring it back. And
Right.
for some reason, they decide no one's going to go with him. You'd think one of them would go with.
Since there's nothing for them to do anyway.
Yeah. I
But
mean, they're waiting
anyway,
for the corn seed. And I mean, you'd think it'd be easier with two people, but then we wouldn't have show. So, he goes to Mankato. His wife is like
not
8.5
Mankato,
months pregnant.
Minnesota. Yeah.
Yeah, Minneapolis, not
Yeah.
Mankato. That's next episode.
Next episode.
Um, so he goes to Minneapolis. His wife is like 8.5 months pregnant. And it was driving me nuts because they did not use her name, I think, until the very last scene.
Trudy. Yeah.
Everyone was calling her Mrs. Coulter. Doc Baker, Ma Ingalls calls her Mrs. Coulter, even though they're taking care of her and supposedly friends.
Yeah.
So it's like, does this woman have a name? But Mrs. Coulter is very heavily pregnant, and he's going off for 2 weeks to get the corn. And of course, on the way back, because this is a very straightforward guy, he's not lying, he's not trying to steal their money or anything. On the way back, he crashes his buggy.
Yeah. His horses get spooked for whatever reason, and he can't stop them. And he tries to stop them with the brake, and the brake breaks off, and then the pin comes out from the cart, and then they go running off, and now
Yeah,
he's stuck in a ditch.
he's stuck under his leg is trapped underneath the wagon, and he can't get the wagon off of his leg. And so he's stuck. He's basically at the bottom of this ravine, stuck. And naturally, he's late getting back to Walnut Grove. So all these crotchety old farmers who hang out in front of the mercantile like a bunch of, gossipy old women, they're getting mad
Listen, I'm a
thinking he's
gossipy old woman, and I've never sat out in front of the mercantile the way these guys did. I'm just going
But
to say that up front.
they believe that he stole the money. And
Because they have nothing else to do all day but sit there and
yeah,
speculate about facts
and
not in evidence. Does this
again,
sound familiar to people we know?
yeah,
Moving
none
on.
of them went with him to help
Yeah.
him.
And
But
then,
this is
yeah,
the rare instance where Harriet Oleson is the voice of reason.
where I actually really respected
I
Harriet.
really respected Harriet in this episode because,
Yeah.
Mrs. Coulter was she didn't go with him. So Ma and the girls are looking after her and they go to the mercantile to Mary and Laura and Mrs. Coulter. And they go to the mercantile to get some flour. And the guys are just milling out there being bitchy.
Assholes.
They're just being bitchy. And she comes out and they confront her. Like this heavily pregnant woman, where's your husband? Did he leave you? Did he steal our money? And she, of course,
Are
gets
you
all
going to
upset.
sneak off to him later as you shuffle around pregnant?
Yeah, because you're barely carrying a pound of flour. She's gonna sneak off with it. Yeah, but she runs off, and of course faints or trips or falls or something.
Yeah,
She's
she
just
runs
had
herself
enough.
to exhaustion and then she can't get up. So we have the running up and down the hill, right?
Yeah, so we do have
So,
running up and down the hill. We, for once, do not have frozen Mary either, because Mary gets in these guys' face and says, "What's gonna be
yes.
here?"
So this look for Mary,
This
this
is a
look,
good look for Mary.
this is a good look for Mary, and we will see it later as well.
Mhm.
There are times when Mary, along with being the good girl, also is a little bit of a Bible pumper,
Yeah.
righteous, because she's a rule keeper,
Yes.
except for when she's not a rule keeper. But but
Like we
she
always
really
say,
gets righteous. And there
yeah.
is a scene later on down the line. It's a couple seasons from now where she goes and teaches at a school, and there's a
Oh yeah.
woman that's thumping the Bible, and you're going to see this same kind of speech giving from Mary during that scene as well.
Yeah.
Soap and water.
Yes.
That's if
That's like
I
one of my
smell like
favorites.
anything, I smell like soap and water.
And water. I can't wait for that episode. I love that episode.
Yes.
But here Mary gets in their faces and tells them to knock it off because God's going to punish them and that
And I
they're
loved the
horrible
camera
men.
angle on this because she's definitely looking up at all of them.
Yeah.
And she is just a bristle of fire at them.
Yeah.
It's one of the times I
There's
really
this
loved Mary. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a scene previous to this. It has nothing to do with the actual plot itself, but it's one of those instances where one of the girls has to be dumb for the sake of humor. The girls are in bed, so we have nightcaps. And Mary or Laura is asking about, or Laura's saying she's never going to get pregnant. Or how do we know that Mrs. Coulter is pregnant and not just fat? So we do have some fat shaming in this episode, just out of the blue.
Yeah.
Um, how do we know Mrs. Coulter is pregnant and not just, got a big belly? And Mary explains that the Laura should know this. She has had two younger siblings. Her mother has been pregnant twice in her
Two
lifetime.
siblings, a horse born from another horse.
Yeah,
She's living on a farm. She
she
should know
knows
a lot of
this.
this stuff.
This is just for humor's sake. She's got to be dumb about this, and I don't. That whole scene was just struck me as kind of weird.
But it
But
gave us
Mary,
nightcaps if you had
but we do
it
have
on your
nightcaps.
bingo
Yes, if
card.
you have the bingo card. We do have nightcaps, but Mary tells the guys off, and Laura, is with Mrs. Coulter, and then runs to get Doc Baker, and Doc Baker gives her some sleeping meds
Because
and says
that's
she'll
what
be
you
out
should
for
give.
8 to 10 hours. I'm like, yeah, Doc Baker, can you come to my house next, man? I need some of that fizzy sleeping meds too. Um, and then he says, because women be hysterical. He tells Ma that, well, she'll be fine. It's mostly psychological rather than physical, but I'm worried she'll do harm to herself. So, yeah, because she's gonna hurt herself or something. But
Well, hurt herself or stress herself out to the
stress
point
herself out.
of like
Yeah.
because she's bearing the brunt of the fact that the guy's not
That
there
the guy's
and she
missing.
doesn't know why her husband's not there.
Yeah, I mean, you'd think they'd come together and go, oh my gosh. Well, first off, you'd think they'd send a search party. They're milling around the mercantile doing absolutely nothing. Hey guys, get on your wagons and travel the roads. And the only person who does this, of course, is Charles, because Charles is the only person with brains in this town.
Charles in charge of our days and our nights. I'm going to tell you why that's important in a little while. Okay. Yeah. So Charles goes out and searches, and we find out that the guy's been trapped underneath there. He's trying to use a fulcrum to get to it, and he starts to see the crows coming and the ravens coming. And these crows are starting to pick at the corn, and he knows if they pick at the corn, they're going to come eat all the corn once they realize what it is.
Yeah.
So he's sitting there stuck under a wagon, tossing corn.
Stuff it at birds to keep them from eating the corn.
And then I wish I had sat down and thought about this harder, but how many days do we think he was stuck underneath that
I
wagon?
was thinking 4 or 5. Charles doesn't go out to look for him until he's like 2 days overdue.
But then he finds out that they were 1.5 days from here, or he kind of tracks
It's got to be longer than that. It's got to be longer than that because Charles doesn't go all the way to Minneapolis, but he goes to the next nearest town.
Well, this is the thing that was interesting. It's like he said he was going to Minneapolis, but then we see him pick up the corn down the road. So can we talk timeline for a little bit? So he said it's going to take him about a week to get to Minneapolis. And he pays for the corn. Then I think they ship it to that other town because it's not his father that he gets the corn packed on the wagon from.
Yeah.
And he drove out there with a horse, and he came back with a team plus the wagon, which is not what he went out there on. And I was trying to think about it. I'm like, why wouldn't he have gone with Charles with the wagon? Was it because of time? Was it because of whatever? But anyway, so then he comes back and he gets the little pony, which is the little wooden horse for his kid.
That is totally from the 70s. That is totally from the 70s.
Yeah, it's very clearly brightly painted. The way it's done, everything is very 70s. But he goes through the point of where to keep himself sane, he's talking to the pony as a way to have a conversation. Yeah. But his leg is trapped under there for quite some time. So
yeah.
And when you see it, the wagon literally goes on top, and he falls and the wagon goes on top of him. And then we see him later, he's stuck underneath it, and he's trying to lift it up so he can slide himself out. So how does he not have to cut off his leg if it's been trapped under there without proper, what you would assume is proper circulation for several days?
Yeah.
And spoiler alert, when we get to the end and he does get saved, don't be worried. You don't get to put someone dies on this episode. But all he has is a little single crutch, and he's walking around because all he's got is like a broken leg. I'm like, how
severely dehydrated at that point.
Right. So like there's a lot of factors at play that why he probably should have been dead. And the fact that like when Charles, so there's one scene where Charles comes to two roads diverged in yellow wood. And sorry, I could not travel both and be one traveler. Long I stood, well, not stood, but he sat there for about 3 minutes and he just picked a path. And then, the washerwoman comes out and says, why would I know whether or not a guy had been coming back and forth? I've got things to do, da-da-da. And then he says, okay, ma'am, sorry, have a nice day. She goes, I didn't say I didn't see him. She says, why do you expect me to see him? And then that other guy
is an asshole.
I know. And then this other guy is like, well, I didn't see no man. I didn't see no wagon. And then he starts to let Charles go away. And he's like, well, this team of horses, and they're in my barn, but I didn't see the wagon. I didn't see the man. And so then
kept these horses that happened to be a mile
but
down
I
the
was
road
going to ride. I just hadn't gotten around to it yet.
He was going to keep them horses and not tell anybody.
Well, that was the truth. He
Yeah.
said he was, and then he wasn't, and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, the whole point is that the town doesn't believe it. Pa goes out on a search, and then he finds him, and he brings him back. The corn is all there, and the guy's like, screw you for the way you treated my wife. And you're actually like, yes, this
Yes.
is what they deserve for what they
Yes.
did. But then Charles gets the whole town to come out and plant the corn, so I guess they're gonna stay. Also, she's about to pop, like,
She's like really about to pop. But
so
that being said, I still would have left. I still would have left.
I might
But
have been like, well, thank you guys. I'll stay long enough for one crop and then I'm out of
and then
here,
I'm out of we never see them again anyway, so
Right. So
they're
let's
disappearing
talk about
chemical.
a couple of things. First of all, the opening statement by Pa is, we all know Joe Coulter. And it's like, no, we don't,
No, we don't.
because this is his first and only episode
We
with
all
us.
know who.
But thank you very much. Secondly, we see Jack, but is that Jack? No, it's
No.
not Jack. That is a sheepdog. That is not even Jack the
It's
Terrier.
not the same dog.
And like, I didn't even have to look that up to tell you. So clearly Jack was out on some other job that day and Joe Camp just used a dog on hand. And nobody ever called it Jack. It's just assumed that it's Jack. So um and then the whole thing with the pony kind of rocking and being there. I was like, the minute they put that pony on the back, you knew something bad was gonna happen. So
Yeah.
all and yet Pa went there. He went there with his horses and his wagon,
Yeah.
which you would have thought if he was going on a search, he would have just taken his
Taking his
horse.
horse.
And then
Nobody's making any sense in this episode.
so he said, we're going to get you to safety. We're going to get you to safety. And yet, and they got him to safety, but somehow he also stopped and got all the corn.
Yeah, I guess he went back and got all the corn.
And the reason why the kid comes running in is because if he had come back with him on there would have been so many questions. Like, he stopped to pick up the corn first, or
Yeah.
like all sorts of stuff. But yet we still need Doc Baker. So you didn't take him to the doctor in the town of the people that lie. So like, or just Doc Baker needed to do a
directly
status
to the
check.
doctor.
Yeah, like, there's questions. It's a messy end. It's a messy end.
It's a very messy end. It's kind of a messy episode all around. I mean, even at the beginning, Ma's like, "Go get some more wood for the fire," and the wood pile is literally like 2 feet away.
Away.
It's 2 feet. There's this pile of wood just sitting in the middle of.
But I am thankful for that pile of wood, and I'm going to tell you, and it's not going to shock you at all, but I'm going to wait till you stop sipping, because you could totally had a crush on Alan Fudge in this episode, who played Joe Coulter. That red curly chest hair and arm hair, that's my style.
Yeah. Plus he's all like, "This is man's work."
Yeah, like, he had his shirt was open much more. No wonder Pa didn't take his shirt off in this episode, because he didn't want.
There was no comparing.
Yeah, bare-skinned Michael Landon does not compare to curly redheaded Alan Fudge. That was just like, sorry for you children at home, but
I'll plant your corn there, mister.
So let's talk a little bit about our guests in this episode. So Joseph Coulter was played by Alan Fudge. Alan Fudge did a lot of guests, 24 episodes of Seventh Heaven as Lou Dalton. He was in a Highway to Heaven episode later on, so obviously he did not piss off Michael Landon. He got future work for him. And he was in a Gunsmoke episode, so you can mark that on your bingo card if you didn't have it. Also, while he was in college, he was in a singing group called the Ash Alley Singers. And he was in a singing group with a guy by the name of Bob Kimmel, who helped to form the Stone Ponies. And if you are a 70s songwriter person, that is the group that Linda Ronstadt fronted. Yeah. So he was one step away from Linda Ronstadt. And the only reason why he wasn't in the Stone Ponies was because he hadn't graduated from college yet, and he finished his degree. So Alan Fudge, really good, strong actor, was in a lot of lot of scenes afterwards. Now, Julie Cobb played Trudy Coulter.
Yeah.
She came from an acting family, and she also went to school with some pretty famous people like Albert Brooks and stuff like that. Um, you would recognize her because she went on to play the mom in Charles in Charge. So
She was in a lot of things in
she
the
was
70s and
also,
80s.
but her very first episode was a Star Trek episode, and she
That's
was
right.
the first female red shirt to die.
Yep. That's where I
First and only
recognize her.
female red shirt to die.
Yeah.
She was also in a Waltons episode. She was also in a Gunsmoke episode. So,
We do have Gunsmoke.
and about a year after this episode aired, she married Victor French, who plays Mr.
Oh,
Edwards. Now, she and he were only married for about a year, but she
was
did
those
marry him.
marriages.
She was married about 4 times, and she's still alive. And then let's talk about Ed Stacy. So Ed Stacy was one of the mean guys. He played it was Ted Gehrig. He's in a total of 5 episodes. This one he's Ed Stacy. Later on, we'll find out that he's Mr. Sprague, who's the banker. So he's going to play 4 episodes as the banker.
Yeah.
He also was in Highway to Heaven. He was in about 16 episodes of Alice. He was in 8 episodes of Bonanza. So if you had Bonanza on your card, you could click that. He was also in Star Trek. So just kind of interesting. The other thing was Ted Gehrig was also in MASH. And remember how I said Julie Cobb got married 4 times? Her father-in-law was Harry Morgan, who was in Dragnet and MASH. So there's a lot of crossover of guest characters here.
Cross-pollination there amongst the shows.
Yeah, so some interesting.
Yeah, this was kind of a mean episode.
Yeah.
I disagree with them staying in town because I would have been like, no, honey, we're leaving. And I swear to God, the only time they said Trudy was that very last scene. Well, Trudy, let's go meet our new neighbors.
Well,
and
and what's interesting about this is it's right after Child of Pain, where you have the kid being abused, and Circus Man, which some time was previously aired potentially separately, different way. But it's like Circus Man gets kicked out of town, Child of Pain, somebody is being abused and people know about it and it takes forever to fix. And then you have Pregnant Woman, let's be mean to her.
Let's be mean to her.
Let's steal stuff from a guy who's clearly his team ran off without a look for him. Let's just leave him lying on the side of the road for 4 freaking days. So, yeah.
Incidentally, this won't be the last episode where people are lying on the side of the road underneath a wagon for 4 days. That reappears.
Spoiler alert.
Later on. The only other thing I wanted to add was to go back to Harriet Oleson, because Harriet, twice we're shown those guys milling around the mercantile, and both times she's very kind to Mrs. Coulter.
Yes.
She gives her, here, just take as much flour as you need today. I'll have Nels bring out the 50-pound bag to your house.
Yes.
So she's not having to carry it. And the girls
and he was like, Harriet, and she's like, Nels,
no,
that's just a service we provide.
And then the second time she shoos all those guys off. She's like, you go curse somewhere else. So they're standing around the mercantile cursing. What bunch of jerks.
Because they're old guys with nothing better to do. Younger guys would have family.
Don't know what crops to plant in this environment.
The only one of them that goes hunting instead. And like, can I just talk about this for a second? Yes, I understand you're going to invest your money in a potential money crop, but you still need wheat. So why are you going to convert all of your fields?
You're still going to have an entire season with nothing.
Some of your fields, and do like, hey, I'm going to do 2/3 is this, but I'm still going to do the wheat. That way, if nothing else, my family will have food to eat during the winter.
You'll at least have flour. It didn't make any sense to me that they're immediately just going to transfer all of their crops and hope that next season everything goes great. But we needed a show, so
there you go.
And that's Money Crop. So we're getting
Yay!
toward the end of season 1 here. We've
We
got 3
have 2
episodes
more
left.
episodes in this season, and then we're done. So
Yep. So yeah, that's Money Crop. This is kind of it's Walnut Grove being Walnut Grove. We're gonna see these people being mean and nasty a lot. So
well, I kind of felt like the whole reason why Mrs. Olson being kind was so impactful is because she's usually the first one to suspect something awry.
yeah.
And her not suspecting them for a minute did 2 things. It gave that voice of reason that the episode needed. But also if she trusts her, there must be something about her and her husband, who's an educated man, and educated in agriculture.
Yeah.
So therefore, being able to relate to both sides of the table, that made it interesting. So anyway.
So next time on Two
So did
Woke
you get a
Bonnets,
bingo?
I did not. No, I did not. I was one shy, because Ma didn't cry.
Which card were you on?
I was on 6.
Okay. Did Pa cry?
No.
So I was 1 shy.
Yeah.
I was
So
on
I was
card
1
16.
shy.
I got O'Nell's because she yelled at him for not wanting to take the flour out. I got Free Jack, which wasn't Jack.
Yeah.
I had that somebody got lost, hostage, or kidnapped because we had the guy by the side of the road. And he was on Gunsmoke. My other ones, so I had several where I had 3 in a row, where she said, "Oh, Charles, the kidnap," and Mom and Pa. Mom and Pa always have a knowing look. That's like the
Yeah,
consistent.
that's going to be
It's almost
I
like
think
a
it's gonna
free
be
space at that
this
point.
point.
There was nightgowns because they talked about, whether she was pregnant or fat. And wild animals did attack. We had the crows attacking the
crows.
corn and running up and down the hill, obviously. And then the town folk disappeared, right?
Yeah.
Like we never
Yep.
saw them again.
We never saw them again. So yeah, I had 3 in a row, which was Carrie Speaks, because she does actually say something here. Running up and down the hill, and then wild animals attack. And then another way I had running up and down the hill, the free space, and then nightcaps. So
yeah,
it was a
but
pretty.
If Pa had cried, I would have gotten a bingo.
Yeah,
on
if
that.
Ma had cried, I would have gotten it. So okay, well, until next time, thank you for joining us on the Prairie, and we'll be
Yes.
back for survival.
I'm a survivor. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Two Woke Bonnets. To find out more and to download your bingo card, visit twowokebonnets.com. And don't forget to like and subscribe wherever fine video and audio podcasts are played.